Who are you? And then when you understand the who you are, then you can understand the why you're doing what you're doing, right? So what's your mission, vision, and your purpose? If your mission, vision, and purpose is to be Joe Rogan and have everybody in the world watch your podcast, I'm sorry to tell you, it's probably not going to happen. Joe Rogan didn't become Joe Rogan overnight. I mean, he had influence. He did the comedy clubs for years and nobody knew him. Right. And he had the right opportunities and he just kept grinding and he kept working and he kept working. I have to do everything that I do first and foremost from my relationship with God through Jesus. Right. That's where everything within me flows from. And that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody that I interact with believes the same thing that I do. I try to do everything that I do as if I am doing it for God.
I look at it as I am building all of these relationships. I mean, forget about the views for a moment or the downloads. I have been building relationships with so many people that I get to interview. And that, we know that can open up so many doors for them and for me. Like it's a win-win for everyone. And so all of those other things, they're going to come in time, but you have to be in love with the process and the journey and not only focused on, a number. So I just thought it was an interesting perspective. We are back on Create with Kate, and I have a very special guest tonight. I have Will Reed, who is the Chief of Staff for Devore Capital, and he is an amazing guy. He's a father, and you do ministry work as well, right, Reed? Will?
Yes, I do.
I called you Reed.
You did. You called me. I feel like I was in the military again. That's
because I saw it on the screen. I'm like, wait, no, not Reed, Will. So, you did ministry work, or you still do?
I still do, yes. I will be ordained as a pastor in the local church this September. I've been serving as a ministry leader for a recovery discipleship ministry for the last 6.5 years. So,
incredible.
I stay busy.
I love that. So you do that, and then you also did before this new role that you're in. You were kind of like head of marketing, right?
So I wear many hats here at Devore Capital. So my new title is Chief of Staff. So I am helping our CEO Scott Devore kind of buy back his time. He's been all in on trying to make himself more efficient as the CEO and kind of get out of the kind of nuts and bolts of actually doing, but casting a lot of vision, helping put together strategy, and I'm helping him kind of organize the team so we can be as efficient and as effective as possible. Also, I oversee all of our real estate, our construction, our development, and at end of last year, we started to develop a media team. So now we have a full-time editor, a couple of videographers. We have Ethnan, who is our marketing director. So we've been busy. We've been running 100 miles an hour.
It's amazing. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of hats. Like a lot. So what I love about you, Will, is just how much you care. I feel like you can just feel, you just have like a spirit to serve. And especially when I got to meet you in person, I really was able to like experience that. And I am all about building personal brands and helping people with content creation, and mainly focusing on showing up authentically to serve their audience. And so, for you, in all of these different roles that you've had and just your own personal life experience, I feel like identity is number one, knowing yourself. But what do you feel like has helped you with that, or how do you help others like get to know themselves? Because I feel like there's really a problem in today's society with people knowing who they are and what they stand for.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think and I understand what you say when you say building a brand, but I do believe that so many people are so out of touch with who they are as a human being that they're trying to create something that's not authentic so they can get likes and views. And the consumer of all of our content is really smart nowadays, and they can read into the fake without trying to be rude or disrespectful to anybody. And if you have to try too hard to be something that you're not, people are going to notice. And what I took a long time in life to try to figure out was who am I? And for a long time, I was a sales guy. If you ask me, you ask most men, who are they? And they're going to tell you immediately what they do. If you ask a lady, a mother, like, who are you? And I'm a mother, I'm a this, I'm a that. And you're talking about tasks and things that you do and roles and responsibilities, but it doesn't ever address the question of who are you? And that is a struggle that so many people have. And I've seen it in ministry. I've seen it in the business world that, we talk a lot about freedom and success and hitting goals, but that true freedom comes when you understand who you are and why God put you here.
It's so
And
interesting that you say that too, because, as even I'm doing the introduction of you, and you obviously have many hats, so that's why it's hard for me to keep up. But like, even if you had just one hat, the way that I think the words I used to describe you were you serve and you're a dad
right.
and ministry. So yeah, I'm just going back to what you were saying about men and women and
Yep.
just kind of the differences of how
Yeah.
we
So you were
describe.
saying, with wearing so many different hats, it's for me, and what I have come to learn over the years is I have to do everything that I do first and foremost from my relationship with God through Jesus, right? That's where everything within me flows from. And that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody that I interact with believes the same thing that I do. I hope that one day everybody would, but I I try to do everything that I do as if I am doing it for God. That is what the scripture teaches. That's the way that I have found that I can have peace, I can have joy, I can have fulfillment. I understand my purpose when everything that I do is for Him and everything that I get the opportunity to do is a blessing from Him. So it's my
Yeah.
relationship with God, my role as a husband, then my role as a father, and then all of the things that I get to do inside of the ministry and inside of working for Devore. But when everything flows from, okay, I'm doing this for God, everything that I have been tasked with is a blessing, and I'm just going to do it. Like I woke up at 3:30 this morning and got ready, and I came to work, and I walked in the office at 5 o'clock, and it's now 7:15 our time, and
Yeah.
I'm just blessed with the ability to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great way to look at life, and that it really is a gift, and we have a lot to do. Like I feel like we all have assignments,
Right.
and we have to like get to work and serve. So you're how old are you now? Well, if you don't mind me asking.
Oh, well, you should never ask that. I'm kidding. I'll be 45 in August.
Okay, 45 in August. So you're a
Yep.
Leo. Interesting. August what? Or is it the end of August?
It's the end of August.
End of
It's,
August.
it's the
Um,
end of August.
so were you always this way with like your faith?
No.
So how many years did you live life a different way?
So I was a really bad alcoholic for a long time. I started drinking when I was 17. I didn't get sober until I didn't start getting sober until I was 29.
29. Okay.
Got married when I was 30, and it was since I was so the last 15 years I've really been on this journey that started with sobriety
Mm-hmm.
because I was gotten in a lot of trouble. I almost went to prison. There was just a lot of chaos and crazy that was going on in my life, and through that it started with sobriety, and then with that journey, I started going on this encounter. Like, there's so much more to this world than just me and my problems.
Mm-hmm.
And when I learned to take my problems, because I still had them, I was still working through them, but I put them on the shelf and I
Yeah.
started investing in other people. And how can I take my experiences and what I've learned and help somebody else along the way? And that was, that was in church, that was in business, that was, I was really good on the phones. I was a great salesperson on the phone, so I could help people hone their craft, and I could help people in their walk to get sober. I could help people through, becoming a disciple of Jesus. I was able to take all of these things that I had learned through a lot of mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and I started to see that, man, there's so much more, and there's so many people that just have things so much worse than I did, and through serving other people, God began to make me whole, and it finally
Mm.
got to a place that those problems that were on the shelf, they just stayed there, and I didn't have to pick them up anymore.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. I'm sober too, and
Yep.
our experiences are different. But what's interesting to me about like AA or Al-Anon, because it's like
Mhm.
the same program, uh, is like it does start with a higher power,
Sure.
and so I feel like just like you said, um, as believers, like that's we understand that too. Like it's
Right.
very similar. I I think now I don't study the Bible. I don't study scripture. That's something I want to get better at. But I think it's a very similar teaching, those 12 steps, as the Bible. Is that true or no?
So I went through. So when you look at AA, when you go back to when AA was first created, the higher power was God. The higher
Mm-hmm.
power was Jesus, and then over time, it did kind of get to be more broad,
Yeah.
to be more inclusive. Like many things in society, it
Sure.
starts out like this, and then we need to become more inclusive and more open. So then it became more broad. So a byproduct of that was there's an organization called Celebrate Recovery, which is a
Oh,
faith-based 12-step program, and it is much more rooted in the scripture and the biblical
okay.
teachings. And they use the Beatitudes from the book of Matthew to create the steps, and they work, and they've helped a lot of people, and I was a byproduct of kind of a hybrid, faith-based 12-step model for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have learned, so not to preach at you, so when you look at the 12th step, the
Mm-hmm.
12th step is having had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps. Now I go out and share my experience with other people.
Yeah.
I do not believe that that is a biblical concept. I do not
Okay.
believe that is a healthy concept. One, you didn't have a spiritual experience as a result of these steps. You had a spiritual experience as a result of an encounter with a living God.
Mm-hmm.
And if you when you do start to get into the gospels, you're going to see Jesus's model was follow me. Jesus's model wasn't, okay, we're going to clean everything up and then you're going to go out. And he's like, no, follow me. You're going to get fixed and you're going to get cleansed on the
Yeah.
journey, right?
Okay.
But you had an encounter with me, so now go tell people about me.
Okay.
And I believe, and it kind of goes back to what I learned differently, the sooner people begin to serve other people, the faster healing and restoration comes in their spirit.
That's good.
And if we put people on a hamster wheel of like, no, you got to do 1 through 11
Yeah.
before you can do 12, I think we're doing people a disservice,
Yeah.
and we're not showing people that there's so much, you have so much to offer. Even in all of your mess and all of your yuck, like you have so much to offer one person, that if you just start engaging and you start doing and loving one another, right? That's what Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. And I don't think for many people that you can begin to love your neighbor until you love yourself,
I
right? Because
agree. I agree.
But when you begin to go and see, I can be a blessing, I can help someone, I can care for somebody, I can give somebody a hug, I
Mhm.
can do these things that start to turn, this brokenness inside of me to
Yeah.
purpose.
So
We're rolling with it.
I want to ask a question about what you just said,
Mhm.
um, because well, actually, I'm going to tell you a little story, and then there will be a question at the end. So
Okay.
somebody said to me, because we just started this well, I guess it's been a minute now. I started the podcast maybe February, uh, but I still feel like it's new, and I'm figuring things out as I go,
Sure.
right? And someone said, is anyone listening to the podcast? Like, I know you've filmed several episodes and you have a lot scheduled, but do you actually have people listening? And I said, well, I have some, but it's still growing, right? Like, so
Hmm.
I think I have maybe 30 some subscribers on YouTube, and I don't even know the downloads on Spotify and all of that.
Okay.
Um, because my main goal was just to take action, and we'll figure these things out as we go, but
Right.
I just really believe in taking action. Is
Sure.
That's the best thing to do, right? So
Yep.
it got me thinking, though. This is an interesting perspective, because this person also wants to start a podcast. They have the desire, but they started to think of these things as, well, all of that work, all of that investment, and only, 30 some subscribers was their
Hmm.
mindset, right? And what I responded with was, well, that's one way of looking at it. However, like, I look at it as I am building all of these relationships. I mean,
Yeah.
forget about the views for a moment or the
Right.
downloads. I have been building relationships with so many people that I get to interview. And
Yep.
that, I mean, we know that can open up so many doors for them and for me. Like,
Yep.
it's a win-win for everyone. And so the all of those other things, they're going to come in time, but you have to be in love with the process and the journey, and not
Right.
only focused on, I mean, a number. So
Yep.
I just thought it was an interesting perspective. So what would you say to people that, like, I don't know, have that kind of mindset?
Right. Well, so go back to identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? And then when you understand the who you are, then you can understand the why you're doing what you're doing, right? So what's your mission, vision, and your purpose?
Yeah.
If your mission, vision, and purpose is to be Joe Rogan and
Mm-hmm.
have everybody in the world watch your podcast, I'm sorry to tell you, it's probably not going to happen. You know, right? Because like Joe Rogan didn't become Joe Rogan overnight. I mean,
Sure.
he had influence. He did the comedy clubs for years,
Yeah.
and nobody knew him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had the right opportunities, and he just kept grinding, and he kept working, and
Mm-hmm.
he kept working, and so Joe didn't become Joe. So why are you doing what you're doing? And I had to retrain my brain to stop looking at my subscriber count and my views, because I know I'm doing what I need to be doing. So
Mm-hmm.
I have like YouTube specifically. I have two channels. I have the Will podcast, and that channel we bring in people that are leading with their faith in business and nonprofits that are doing something positive for the community in which we live in, and that's been the bulk of our guests so far. And then I have Disciple Maker University as my other channel, and doing primarily shorts right now
Okay.
on it. Some of my teachings that from the ministry that I run during the week, we're uploading those there. I'm going to start doing Bible teaching, through there. And so we'll have kind of like what we're doing in the business on
Mm-hmm.
one channel, and then Disciple Maker University is, my purpose. And if you're doing what you feel like you're being led to do, then it's going to be successful, even if only one person watches it. Because, like
Totally.
you said, you're investing. Like you said, you're building your relationships. You're
Mm-hmm.
investing in other people. You're investing in yourselves, and these different things. Like we wouldn't be having this conversation today if we weren't being authentic and transparent with one another about kind of like where our backgrounds and where we were coming
Yes.
from, you know and there's there's thousands and thousands of ladies that have been in your shoes,
Mm-hmm.
or are in your shoes right now, and to see, your growth and your journey from kind of where you were to where you are now is going to inspire people. It's
Yeah.
going to help people. Where I was at. I mean, I don't shy away. I mean, Scripture tells us to share our testimony,
Mm-hmm.
because our testimony is ours. And when I can sit there and I can look at a guy who's struggling in his marriage, and he's struggling as a father, and he's struggling with alcohol, and he's struggling with drugs, and or all of these different things, I can look at him in the face and be like, dude, I get it,
Yeah.
right? Because I was there. And um, a lot of people, they see me today, and they don't know the guy from 20 years ago, right? But I tell them about the guy from 25 years ago who was so heavily intoxicated that he was driving a car and crashed into a police officer. Like I get it. Like I understand. I
What do you
understand.
say to the guy though that has a problem but maybe is still in denial? Because I feel that we have a big problem. Well,
Right.
seriously, we have an and this probably has always existed, right? But like,
Yep.
it's so accepted in our
Yep.
society, and it's that so many families, I think, that look like they have it together,
Hmm.
their relationships are suffering, but
Right.
because the person has a good job, because they do X, Y, and Z, they think, well, I don't have a problem. Like maybe
Right.
deep down they know they
Yep.
do, but
Yep.
I just see a
Again,
lot of that.
yeah. Well, it goes back to the identity, right? If
Hmm.
the identity is making a couple of dollars and having a good job, then that's one thing, right? But if you're in a relationship, or you're a husband, you're a father, you're a mother, you're a sister, and your relationships around you are busted,
Hmm.
and the one singular thing is the bottle or the drug or whatever other life controlling issue that it might be, then you need to be open to have people that are going to speak into your life and to be able to point out the thing, and you need to receive it.
Hmm.
I'm actually going to put it out tomorrow. Jordan Peterson spoke on it recently on the problem with alcohol. 50% of all murders in this country, somebody in the process, whether it was either the victim or the victimizer, was under the influence of alcohol. 50%,
Wow.
right? So most domestic abuse, the alcohol is involved. So every major problem that we have, alcohol
Cheating.
plays.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, adultery.
Hmm.
All of those all of that stuff. It alcohol is somewhere in the picture.
Hmm.
Alcohol is somewhere in the picture. So I understand being in denial because I lived in denial, but I don't shy away from now talking to a guy who's like, man, I don't have a problem. Okay, well, let's just do an audit of your life, right? Like
Okay.
you balance your checkbook. Let me help you balance your life. Okay, what's your relationship like with your wife?
Yeah.
What's your relationship like with your kids? How many jobs have you had in the last 5 years? Let's talk about all of these things. And when you have those hard, truthful conversations, you might not want to believe it, but the writing is on the wall,
Yeah.
right? We got to call a spade, right? The alcohol, the drugs, the this, the that, the side girlfriends, all those things are destroying you. It might be doing it slowly, but it is destroying you, and eventually it will catch up. And the ability, and I'm not talking about the people that have a glass of wine here and there. I'm
Sure.
talking about the people that are regularly consuming,
Hmm.
and that's where they find the relaxation. That's where
Right.
they find the kind of disconnect from the world. Like if
Uh-huh.
you have to cloud your brain with a substance to be able to recharge,
Hmm.
there's something wrong.
Totally.
You
And it's
know?
interesting too, even like social events and stuff. I mean, when I stopped drinking, so many people said to me, like, I was really quite shocked, like, how many people said, well, how do you go do this or that?
Yeah.
Like, how do you go to this function or this event? How do you go to a wedding?
Right.
I'm like, well, I just go and I enjoy the people.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Right. No, I get it. And I understand why people would think that because I did too. Because the temptation for a long time, my first 5 years of sobriety, I did not eat a chicken wing. I love chicken wings.
Really?
But yeah, because everywhere that had the good chicken wings also had a bar.
Okay.
And I did not trust myself enough to walk into the bar to get the chicken wings.
Okay. That's
Because if
interesting.
I'd have got the chicken wings, and then I'm going to get the pitcher.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I had to create these very thick boundary walls around my life to protect my life.
Yeah.
And eventually I got to where I could do this. It was our 5th wedding anniversary, and my wife is not a drinker. She's like, one glass of wine a year type person. And it was our 5th anniversary, and she says, "Would it be okay if we were at a nice steakhouse and would it be okay if I got a glass of wine?" I was like, "Yeah, it's fine."
Yeah.
And but she had saw me on the tail end of my crazy,
Yeah.
and we didn't keep it in the house. She wouldn't have that glass, and it was 5 years, and she's like, "Is it okay?" And then funny story with that. So she bought this $25 glass of wine, and she didn't finish it.
Mm.
And like, this is like, how do you? And my brain went right back to the alcoholic,
Uh-huh.
right?
You can't leave that.
Like, yeah, are you gonna finish that?
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't tempted to drink it, but I just remembered back to where I was. Like, if you bought it, you drank it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and so I don't understand what we would call normal people.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I don't understand normal people. So I just stay fully away from it. But that's it. It's like I wish I would have had people in my life sooner that would have told me the truth.
Yeah.
That would have told me just how jacked up I was.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful and I'm thankful for all of my trouble, all of my experiences, all of the years that I went without a driver's license, all
Yeah.
of that. I'm so thankful for that because those experiences have put me in the position where I'm at today to be. I mean, I'm right now, I'm talking to you, but in the opposite side of this window is the Duval County Jail where I was
Wow.
at twice.
Really?
And I see it every single day as I sit on the 9th floor of this building, helping Scott run this company where we're building multifamily developments. We're putting roofs on houses all the time. I have a great job with a great company, and I get to look behind me every single day and remember where I used to be.
That just gave me the chills.
And people are like, "Man, you're grateful that you went to jail." Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Because I'm thankful that I didn't die.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that when I hit that police officer, that he was able to go home to his family that night.
Right. Yeah.
Because I was just so out of control. Another 6 inches this way, that night ends different.
Right. Yeah.
That night ends so different. So to be able to go from there to here, I just was able to share part of my testimony at church this past weekend. And after that, there's so many people that are going through stuff
Right.
and they don't want anybody to know.
No. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, it's okay. I'm jacked up too.
Right.
I'm a little better than I used to be,
Yeah.
but come out, talk about it. Hey, like I said, we go back to the model of Jesus. Jesus just said, "Follow me."
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of following him, those burdens and those pains and that trauma from the past, I tell people all the time, like, they go to church on Sunday morning and they stick their hand up in the air and they say, "Hey, I want to follow Jesus."
Mm-hmm.
And then on Monday, the pain, the burden,
Yeah.
the heartache, all of those things are still there. And yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Now the journey begins.
So true.
You know,
So
because the memories will always be memories.
right.
It's just, do you let them define you, or do you let them
Well, I think
be a
it
push?
shapes you, and
Yeah.
it's just part of your, like you said, part of your story. And it doesn't. That took me a little work and prayer to figure that out myself, because going through divorce, I I didn't want that to be part of my identity,
Sure.
because I'm like, part of my identity is that I value commitment. So
Right.
I thought, how can this be a part of my story? Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is out of alignment with my values.
Yep.
But yet here I was. And so what I realized was I I didn't know who I was entirely, because the way that I showed up, I attracted the wrong partners.
Sure.
And because I didn't really have a voice. And so I had to take responsibility for that and really figure out, who am I? What do I value? And what are my non negotiables, so that I don't
Right.
get into relationships, even, work relationships, professional
Yep.
relationships, friends, right? Like, it's okay to say no. It's okay to have
Yep.
boundaries. These are all things I had to learn. But now I don't look at it as a negative thing. I look at it as, now I'm able to really understand the types of relationships that I want to call into my life. And
Yeah.
so I wouldn't have had this awareness and knowledge, I guess, if I didn't go through that. That's just like what I had
Sure.
to go through.
Yeah. No, you're right. And so often we do have to take our lumps to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're so for me, all right, I'm not going to put this on anybody else, but for me, I can play the tape backwards and I could see so many opportunities where God was opening the door for me to get off the crazy train.
Mm.
And I was in denial. I wasn't ready yet. It didn't, for someone to change, the pain of changing has to be less than the pain of staying the same.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, because it hurts where I'm at right now,
Yeah.
but if it's going to hurt more, even though I'm hearing what you're telling me, it's going to be better on the other side of this thing. I'm going to have hope. I'm going to
Yeah.
have peace. I'm going to have joy. I hear what you're saying, but it's going to be terribly painful to get there. Then I'm just going to stay where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know. So once it gets to where we talk about rock bottom, right? I don't want to. I'm at the bottom. I don't want to get any worse. I don't want things to worse. But the things with human beings, when we hit that bottom, we go pick up a shovel and we start digging, and then we find a new bottom,
Mm.
and then we just keep going.
Yeah.
And luckily for me and for you, right, there was an event, there was a catalyst that took place that said, okay, no more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like no more. And I'm sure part of that had to do with relationships and
Mm-hmm.
people that come in your path, and you see, like, oh, wait a minute, I I want what that person has, not from a coveting standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't want your car and I don't want your house, but I want that peace that you have. But yeah, there was people in your path, and you're saying, like, I mean, I want what they have. And for me, in my immaturity, I was mature enough, and I had enough wisdom that I was able to put my own little personal board of directors in my life.
Okay.
And unfortunately, and that's my kind of my mission and purpose and vision behind Disciple Maker University, is to encourage and equip people to go out and start knocking on people's doors to
Yeah.
help them,
Yeah.
right? Is because when we have people that we can connect with and we can learn from and we can glean from, the likelihood of success is really high. And the more people that we have that are going to be a positive influence in our life, the faster it happens, right? It's just like getting a coach,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Our content creation increased when we started talking with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like that in your personal life. So I went and found a guy who was good in business that I could learn from. I found a guy who was strong in his faith that I could learn from. A guy who was married for 30 years that I could learn from. A guy that had 6 or 7 kids that I could learn from.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these men had a different role to play in my life, and they all had a role to play into where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And many of those men now, like, they call me for advice. Like,
Yeah.
when I first met them 15 years ago, I was just a stupid guy that didn't know, left from right. And now we're brothers, we're friends. They're, we use the term spiritual fathers. Many of them.
Oh, I like
Um,
that. I like
and
how you talk about sharing your testimony, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that are very successful, and they create content. They create some really good content,
Yeah.
but they lack the engagement piece, like what it could be. Like they're
Yeah.
getting some engagement, but they're just missing that element of really getting vulnerable in order to create these like deeper connections. But
Yeah.
they associate that with losing credibility. And I think that it gives you more, because I think
Yeah.
that's what really connects people to you, and
Right.
they can see the possibilities of what their life could look like, knowing
Right.
that you're not perfect.
Right.
But
No,
how do you
that
talk? How would you, coach a guy like that? I'm sure you meet him all the time.
yeah. So show me the guy who was willing to talk about his first 3 businesses going out of business, and now he's got a net worth of $50 million. I want that guy to coach me
Yeah.
way more than the guy who doesn't tell the hard stuff.
Right.
Right? Like, no, running a business is difficult. Being an entrepreneur is difficult. And because there's these fake personas, right? And I don't mean this in a bad way. Like when people are not authentic to tell the whole story, so many people hear, the MLM, right? Hey, sign up and get 10 people to sign up and everybody's going to make $1 million.
Right.
Well, no, there's actually work and labor
Yeah.
that has to go involved in it. Like take licensed real estate agents. The vast majority of licensed real estate agents in
Don't make it.
2023
Yeah.
sold one house,
Right.
right? Because chasing the dream, because they see, the top producer in their community that, they're doing 10 deals a month or whatever. We see, guys like Ryan,
Yeah.
he's got the success, where Ryan is different because Ryan documented a large part of his journey to get to where he's at.
Right.
So he's got a different level of authenticity, where some people, you see the money, you see the cars, you see the success, but you don't know the other part.
Yeah.
So when you step into it, like, hey, I took my test, I'm a licensed real estate agent as well. I took my test. Oh, wow. Well, where's all the people throwing houses at me to sell, right? No, you got to,
Yeah.
you got to go grind, and you got to go put in the work.
Yeah, and you got to
And
fall in love with helping people, because
yes,
if it's all about you and what you like. If I used to tell people, if you're just doing this to make money, you will not succeed.
no,
You just
no,
won't. That can never be
no.
the main motivator.
And you may make some money,
Yeah. Oh, sure.
and you may make a lot of it, but at the end of the day, it's how many bridges are you going to burn along the way? How many missed opportunities are you going to have to bring somebody along with you? Where you can, and then just be authentic, right? It's like, no, like, hey, here's my coaching program. It's going to cost X.
Yeah.
And I didn't always have it together. So when you engage with me, what you're getting is the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
Right? When you go to my YouTube channel, and like, I'm not just going to sit here and open the Bible and read it to you, right? You're going to hear the story. You're going to hear, like, no, I wasn't a guy who was raised in the church. I was a guy that started drinking at 17 years old and just carried on for more than a decade.
Yeah.
I was a guy who, I went, I was in the Marines from 1998 to 2002. So I went to Afghanistan after 9/11 happened.
Wow.
Saw all of that stuff. And if I don't tell those pieces of the story, like, and I just say, hey, I got a nice office on the 9th floor of this building. I get to look at the river every day. It's great. It's great, because it is great. But the journey to get here took a lot of bumps, a lot of lumps, and I had to learn. And I had to learn from my mistakes. And, Scott, our CEO, when he tells his story, like, he came from, his mother was an immigrant from the Philippines, and, she couldn't read English.
Wow.
you know, but he's managed to, you know,
And she was
build
a
this.
single mom too, or no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
his mother and father had divorced, and she basically, you know, she raised, you know, Scott and his siblings, and you know, they were able to become college educated
Mm-hmm.
and become successful in their life. You know, she had something in. She didn't quit.
Right.
You know, she didn't quit, and you know, and that's one thing that I do believe that I also possess is as bad as it got and as close as I got to quitting, I didn't quit.
Yeah.
And you know, and I shared some of that with you before. Like I was in a place where it was so dark and it was so like everything was gone. My house was in foreclosure.
Mm-hmm.
The truck had got repoed. The brand new motorcycle had gotten repoed. All the money that I had left in the bank. Like I was 20 when I was 25 years old. I made like $125,000 that year.
Which
You know,
that's impressive.
and just a couple years before that, I was making like 30 grand a year in the Marines.
Wow.
You know, so um, and I'd lost everything. And I was sitting there and I'm getting ready to take my life, like legit, like I was not going to be here anymore. And a buddy of mine that I hadn't seen in a while, he came by and he knocked on my door and forced me. And I was drunk, like
Yeah.
for real. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing." I mean, of course, I'm not telling him how. It
Yeah.
was years later before I would tell him just what my plan was for that day. And he drugged me to a church service.
Yeah. So
Right.
he took you to the church service.
Yeah, so he drugged me to a church service, and I had an encounter that that was I can't describe it. To this day, I can't describe it. And the I went back the next day sober because I woke up the next morning and I chalked up that experience to the alcohol.
Mm.
But it was real. Something happened. So I went back the next day because they were doing like a dramatization of some Bible stories and some scriptures. So I went back the next day and I said, God, I said, I don't know where I learned this from. I said, but I know I'm not supposed to test you, but I need whatever happened yesterday to happen again today. And it was in that moment that I had the same experience, the same encounter,
Wow.
the same authenticity, and my life went on a much different journey after that. And
Yeah.
I didn't have all of the answers. I didn't understand anything about
Mm-hmm.
anything. All I knew in that moment is that I had purpose, that I had something to do while I was here,
Yep.
and it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I've done the counseling, I've done all of those things, and it's okay to do those things. And to be able to use those experiences to be able to help people, you know, and to
Yeah.
because now like everybody knows, you know, like I'm Pastor Will everywhere I go.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm selling your house, I'm Pastor Will. If I'm, you know, going down to the city to get the blueprints for, you know, the next build that we're gonna do, like that's just who I am. But I do all of these other things,
Mm-hmm.
and I can do all of these things at a high level, not because I am the smartest guy that you're going to meet, because I'm absolutely not. But I just have a drive that no, life is so precious and valuable that if you're going to do something, just go all in. If you're
Yeah.
going to make content, go all in, make it, be authentic. If you're going to start a business, get the right people around you, and don't make 400,000 small businesses fail every year.
Wow.
You know, and the one commonality with all of those 400,000 small businesses that fail every year is they don't have a coach, they don't have a mentor, they don't have anybody showing. You know, they have a passion to do the thing that they love, and you know, it's making baskets or technology or clothing or what, you know, all of those things, but they don't have anybody to help them.
Yeah.
They just try to go all in on their thing, and so many fail.
Yeah.
And it's just take a step back. We need each other. That's what you say, the relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
The
we need each
community
other.
aspect, and I when you were just saying that too about your encounter, you know, I believe a stranger could speak something into you, or just give you a look, and
Oh yeah,
that could speak to someone and change their
sure.
life. Like that is my belief.
I did it again.
It's okay. We're almost done.
All right. I am terribly sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Don't be sorry. This is just, hey, this is real life. This is authenticity. This is authenticity. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
But no, absolutely. I like what you said there. I like what you said there about, a look, a smile.
mhm,
I counted the other day how many people that walked next to me. I was in the grocery store, and there were 6 people that walked by me and did not even look me in the eye.
mhm.
And every one of those people I was looking at, smiling,
Yeah.
you know. And we got COVID, 2020 and all of that. It really did cause a lot of problems, and we were already kind of,
Mhm.
separated as a society prior to that. But it just made it worse, and that isolation, like community is so terribly, like it's important. Like we have to have it.
Yeah.
We have to have it.
I
Going
completely
like
agree.
I'm gonna go back to Jesus with everything. But when you look at when the apostles were originally going out and the original disciples were going out, they were tasked with to go out in pairs of 2. They went out
Mm,
2 by 2 in every direction, right? To not be alone,
yeah.
and we're called to come together as people and support one another and love one another and help one another. And if we can do that through great distances, I mean, we're
I know.
1,000 miles apart,
Yeah.
and this is going to go. I mean, there are people that are getting on my content
Mhm.
on, I don't even know where these countries are.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't even know. I don't even, like, how do I pronounce this? There's 17 continents consonants in a row. Like,
Yeah.
what? But that's why we're here.
That's what's so amazing. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen it so many times, like from content, of course, like one video can reach many people, but also like WealthCon, we've seen it. We've seen that,
Oh yeah.
those interactions. And then I just know, like, for me personally, I have had, I meet a stranger at a gas station
Yep.
and just see them. I think
Hmm.
it's just so important to see people. Like you said, you were looking at these
Yeah.
people, they weren't even looking at you. That's
Yeah.
because they're, I think, afraid of connection. That's what I
Right.
think it is. And when you understand the power of that and
Yep.
how, not just like, it's not even you, it's not just you changing lives, like these people can be changing your lives, and you're missing
Yeah.
all these opportunities and connections because of, I don't know, this fear of being seen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. It's because you hear it a lot. Well, I don't go to church
Mhm.
because church hurt me.
Yes, you do hear that a
Okay.
lot.
You hear that a lot. Um, so do nurses, so do teachers, so do mechanics, so do every other.
Mhm.
People hurt people.
Right.
People hurt people. Unfortunately, that is the case.
Yeah.
But but because it's the church, then it has its own label,
Right.
right? But the re, so because of that label, so many people don't step into community,
Mm-hmm.
right? So many people don't step into community, and the reality is, yeah, there's a good chance that I'm going to hurt you.
Right.
I may not mean to,
Sure.
right? I'm going to say something
It's gonna offend
that,
you, or yeah.
right, I'm going to offend you. You're having a bad day, and I say, and I try to say a joke,
Mm-hmm.
and you just ain't in the mood for that joke,
Right.
right? I come home from work with my burdens and stresses and things that have happened throughout the day, and if I'm not conscious about what state of mind my wife is in,
Mm-hmm.
it's summertime, so the little girls are there all day long, and
Yeah.
I got one that's graduating college this summer. I got another one that starts college in the fall, and then I got the 9-year-old
Yep.
and the 8-year-old. So there's busy, and there's a lot going on in a lot of different directions, and I can just come in and be like, oh man, I just had a argument with a subcontractor,
Right.
as I'm pulling up into the driveway. If I don't leave that conversation in the truck
Mhm.
and I walk into the house and I carry that, inadvertently, I am going to upset my wife
Yeah.
because of the position that I'm in.
Yes, identity is so important. I mean, to me, your brand, it's your reputation. It's like
Yep.
how do you want people to perceive you? And
Yep.
like for me, I authenticity is so important to me. I don't want
Yep.
someone to say that I'm fake. That's
Right.
I want to be the genuine uh woman that is courageous enough to like share all of her failures and
Yep.
how she got through it. And I want to be a good mom, and I want to be a good
Yep.
teacher and a
Yep.
coach, and I just want people to, after they're done with me in any capacity, whether it's at the grocery store or in a coaching situation, I just want them to feel seen and heard, and
Yep.
like I help them. That's
Yep.
what I want. So like that's how I try to show up in my relationship. So there's that, and then there's, community and all of these things, like, but for you and your journey specifically with content creation,
Yep.
what would you say is your biggest takeaway, and what would you want people to hear from you that could maybe help them along their journey of starting to create online?
So my highest performing videos, right? If we're going to talk
Sure.
statistics, right? My highest performing videos are the ones that are they're not highly produced.
Hmm.
They are just real,
Yeah.
and they come from a place of where I'm at or where I've been or where I'm trying to go.
Okay.
And to me, like that just shows how many people are actually seeking authenticity
Hmm.
because it's so rare
Yeah.
anymore. And it's, if you're gonna create, don't stop, don't get afraid. Sean Cannell said, just press record.
Yeah.
Um, do it, but do it from a place of provide as much value as you can,
Hmm.
expect nothing in return,
That's good.
and do it because it is your mission,
Yeah.
vision, and purpose being let out. And like, think the old saying is, you never want to meet your heroes because they'll let you down.
Mm.
I don't, well, one, I'm never going to be anybody's hero, but I don't want to put out, like, I had 100,000 views over the two channels last month.
Wow.
Okay. So 100,000 views, which is insignificant in the big scheme of the internet, but for me, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So those were 100,000 sets of eyeballs that when I go to WealthCon here in a
Hmm.
couple of weeks, some of those people are going to see me,
Yeah.
right? And when they see me, they need to see the same guy that
Yep.
was on the camera that they're going to interact with while we're having lunch.
Yeah.
And if I fail to do that, then I damage my testimony, I damage my reputation.
Hmm.
And for me, and with what is most important to me, is I don't want to be a stumbling block for somebody.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to lead somebody astray. I don't want to give somebody the wrong advice. I want to make sure that where I'm coming from a place of honesty and integrity, and I want you to know, like, if I meet you, even though if I've never met you before, like, I love you,
Yeah.
and you're my friend. I may never see you ever again, but I love you and you're my friend.
Yeah.
And when I say that, like, I want you to believe it and know that it's true.
Hmm.
I want you to know that it's true. And like, people, like, they don't understand, why I do what I do, with all different things. But like, my phone never gets turned off. Like, if my phone goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go to your house. Then last couple of months, I've gotten 2 phone calls with people that, they were suicidal,
Yeah.
and I went to their house and I took their guns.
Yeah.
And I got them the help that they needed,
Yeah.
and
That's so fun.
I would do that. I would do that for a stranger.
Great.
Like, you wanna start a business? Yeah, call me. I will talk to you about your business plan,
Yeah.
because I've started businesses and I've had a couple that did really well, and then I had some that didn't.
Yeah.
So let me help.
Well, I've I've got a few people, oh, not a few, probably more than that, that I want to connect you with at WealthCon to get some
Okay.
content. And then I'm going to try to do a setup there somewhere with my equipment so that people can do kind of like podcast style. But we'll
Okay.
see. There will for sure be
Mhm.
something. But yeah, a lot of people that I'd like to get you connected to.
All
So,
right, cool.
so
All
yeah,
right,
just tell
let's
everyone
wrap
where
up.
they can find you.
Well, there's a lot
Instagram,
of them.
YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, so yeah, if there's anything that I can do for you, you want to start a conversation, you want to make a friendship, you can connect with me on Instagram, and that is I am Will 904. Also, you can find me on YouTube. We have two channels. One is the Will Podcast, and the other is Disciple Maker University. I'd love to connect with you. I love making new friends. Thank you.
I love it. And I'll see you like less than 2 weeks at WealthCon.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Well, Con, it's going to be fun.